Good afternoon and welcome. May the Lord give you peace. Amen. Did anybody see how beautiful it is out there? The clouds are beautiful, the colors everywhere, and it's kind of neat when there's still a number of leaves still on the trees, but a number of them have fallen. So both the ground and it's just like the Lord is overwhelming us with just the artistic beauty of the Creator. It's just so wonderful. And how that is complemented by the Feast of All the Saints, huh? So if you could imagine the most beautiful thing in creation, because of science now we know it's not just this planet, but think of all the galaxies and all that stuff out there. And all of that is nothing compared to one human person who is holy. Isn't that amazing? All these other things are going to pass away, and we're made in God's image and likeness, and we will live forever. And hopefully we live in God's glory forever. So you'll see this in the writings of some of the saints, that the dignity, the value, the beauty of one human holy person surpasses the beauty of all creation. Wow, that's amazing. And sometimes that's easy to believe about other people, but it's hard to believe it about ourselves, huh? So we have this story. Once again, Jesus is, confronting the Pharisees about the meaning of the Sabbath. And, it's an interesting thing. Some scholars have noted that the spirituality of the Sabbath, especially if you go back and look at the original kind of establishment in the book of Genesis, the creation of the world in 6 days, and on the seventh day, God himself rests and invites his people into that rest. So there's a holy day every 7 days. It's almost like a weekly Jubilee. So there are comparisons between the biblical Sabbath and the Sabbath, the sabbatical year every 7, and then after 7's 49, the year 50 is the Jubilee year. And there's a very similar spirituality between the Jubilee and the Sabbath. And that became the Lord's Day for us in Christianity, the day the Lord rose from the dead. And so it's not just about praying, getting to Mass, but it's really the day is dedicated to God in a special way. It's a day of prayer, a day of rest, a day of freedom. And also it's a day to allow the Lord's grace to come, as Jesus does so many healings on the Sabbath. And his big claim, which was so hard to hear for them, not only am I not breaking the Sabbath by doing this miracle, this healing, I'm actually doing the thing the Sabbath was meant for, like a day of blessing from the Lord. Isn't that amazing? And so above and beyond that, we have this beautiful kind of idea of a holy day. Remember to keep the day holy. So the Sabbath day is a holy day. And so it presents us the idea of holiness. Like, what does it mean to be holy? Dedicated to God. We have the saints to show us the way, huh? So I think, is it after Mass, there's some sort of saint costume contest happening, right? So Brother Pius is going to be helping, and he knows about a lot of saints. I'm hoping that some of you stump him. Sometimes he likes to play a game with his nieces and nephews called Stump the Monk. And, and you can imagine when they finally think of a topic he doesn't know the answer, it's like, we stumped the monk. But there's just so many saints, huh? There's so many saints of so many different backgrounds, and young and old. And there's this very funny song in Polish that they like to do on youth retreats. And I'll give you the English version. Saints are tall, saints are short. You can be a saint. Saints are fat, saints are skinny. You can be a saint. Saints are old, saints are young. You can be a saint. It's like this beautiful message that's there for us. And to be holy, to be saintly, is really to be like Jesus. If we had to put it in tell me what a saint is in one line, okay? It's to be like Jesus, to allow Jesus to be alive in us. And so on that note, I want to highlight something that St. Paul told us in the first reading. We're here in Romans, so many good things in Romans. Romans chapter 9, St. Paul makes this claim. And when you first hear this, you may think, whoa, that sounds kind of crazy. What St. Paul says is that he has such a desire for salvation for his fellow Jews that he would be willing to suffer damnation if it meant they could be saved. Now, what kind of a love is that? That is the exact same love that Jesus himself had for us. That Jesus, who's, the second person of the Blessed Trinity, he's absolutely fine and happy in heaven, chose to come down and enter into hell itself through his death so that we could be saved. This supreme expression of his love for us. This is amazing. Like, if we ever wanted to challenge God, prove your love to me. He has answered that challenge, and he has offered the ultimate example. Like, there is no other example of love that one could think of that would be greater than what Jesus actually did. And it's really that love that is truly the mark of sanctity, of holiness, a love of God and a love of neighbor. It's the love that often is modeled by parents. How you parents, like, what would you be willing to suffer for the sake of your children? A lot, a lot. I have a dear friend who is a wonderful woman of God, and she lost her son in a military accident. He was in a helicopter accident. And so obviously that's a very difficult situation. And a little while later, we're having a conversation, and she said something with me, which was just so, it moved me so profoundly. She said that for the longest time, she had a hard time to understand the presence of Mary at the foot of the cross. So we're so focused on what Jesus is doing on the cross, but Mary is there as the mother. And she says, now I understand, because I would have done anything to have been on that helicopter instead of him, and that wanting to be there with him as her son, tragically passes away. And so that is, when she shared that with me, I was like, whoa, I often prayed about that conversation. And there's a reflection of something of God's own love there, that God would be willing to take the punishment himself is really one of the ideas there. And if what would it look like if we all had that kind of love in our hearts? Well, it would look like All Saints' Day. Not only would we look like saints exteriorly, but we would look like saints on the inside as well. And that's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. So I'll conclude with a funny little story from the life of the friars. When you're getting ready to join the novitiate, one of the things that happens is there's a ceremony, and you receive the holy habit of St. Francis. And so you've been in the community for a year, praying and discerning, and now you're going to officially enter. So in canon law, you officially enter a religious order when you enter novitiate. And so in our community, when you're getting ready, of course, you've been measured. The brothers have sewn and made the habits. Okay, you got to try it on, make sure it fits or whatever. That's a bit of a traumatic day, right, bro? It's like, what am I wearing? But you have what's called the habit talk. So I remember our novice director gave us the habit talk, and he kind of gives you some tips on how to walk up and down stairs without falling, which, is you're not used to wearing this. And then other tips about just being mindful of, when you have this on, people are looking at you, so. But also, there was a beautiful kind of meditation that our novice director gave us that you're going to look holy. You're going to have your beard, you're going to have the Franciscan robes, and don't confuse looking holy with actually being holy. Ouch. To which I said to my novice director, I had a great relationship with him. He's like, well, looking holy and being holy are not the same thing. And then I responded to him, but it could be a start, And so this beautiful feast day that comes around, All Saints, All Souls, we have an opportunity to reconsider kind of the great life project that we should all be working on, and that is looking holy and being holy, both exteriorly and interiorly. And the way to do that is to imitate Jesus in every possible way, including that tremendous love that we would have a desire to love others in such a way that we ourselves would be willing to lay down our own lives. Amen.